I never thought my life would change because of a stranger. At least, not like this. When I first moved into the dorms for college, I was just another face in the crowd. My days blurred into lectures, cheap meals from the cafeteria, and long hours scrolling through my phone, pretending I wasn't as lonely as I felt. My roommate had never shown up. Apparently, he deferred his admission or switched to another building. For weeks, the other bed in my room stayed empty. At first, I didn't mind. Having the room to myself meant freedom. No awkward small talk, no sharing closet space, no worrying about someone stealing my snacks. But slowly, the emptiness began to weigh on me. Nights felt especially heavy. Everyone else on campus seemed to have someone. Groups walking back from late-night movies, couples holding hands, friends piling into each other's rooms. And there I was, stuck in my little box, pretending the silence didn't bother me. It was on one of those nights, cool, quiet, and achingly lonely, that everything changed. I was lying on my bed with my headphones in, half asleep, when the sound of the door unlocking startled me. I pulled out one earbud, blinking in confusion. Nobody was supposed to come in. The housing office hadn't mentioned a new roommate. The door creaked open, and in stepped someone I'd never seen before. He looked about my age, maybe 19 or 20. His hair was dark, messy in that perfectly careless way that looked almost intentional. His clothes weren't what I expected from a typical student either. Not flashy, but different. A long coat, worn boots, and a bag slung across his shoulder that seemed far too heavy for just books. His eyes caught me off guard the most, sharp, focused, like he was scanning the room for threats rather than checking out his new living space. For a moment we just stared at each other. Hi? I said, sitting up slowly. He set his bag down and let out a breath. Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. They assigned me here. I'm your new roommate. My heart was still racing, but I tried to play it cool. Right. I didn't think anyone was coming. He gave a small smile, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. Yeah, plans changed. Something about him felt off. Not in a bad way, but in a way I couldn't place. He moved with this quiet caution, like every step was calculated. Even when he unpacked, he did it neatly, methodically, folding each shirt as if he had done it 1,000 times before. I wanted to ask questions. Where he was from, why he showed up so late in the semester. But something in his demeanor kept me quiet. Instead, I introduced myself, and he returned the gesture with a simple, Rayyan. That first night, I couldn't sleep. Not because he was noisy, but because I kept sneaking glances at him across the room. He lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, completely still. It was eerie, almost like he wasn't really asleep. By morning, I almost convinced myself it was nothing. Maybe he was just a quiet guy. Maybe I was imagining the tension in the air. But the days that followed only deepened the mystery. Rayyan kept to himself, speaking only when necessary. He never joined me in the cafeteria or introduced himself to the other students on our floor. When I asked casual questions, "Where are you from?" or "What's your major?" he always gave short, vague answers. And yet, despite his distance, I found myself drawn to him. There was something magnetic about the way he carried himself. He didn't laugh much, but when he did, it was soft, almost shy, like he wasn't used to it. Sometimes when he thought I wasn't looking, I caught him staring out the window with this expression, a mix of longing and sorrow, like he was somewhere far away. One night, about a week after he moved in, I woke to the sound of him shifting restlessly. His breathing was uneven, shallow, almost pained. Concerned, I whispered, "Hey, are you okay?" He jolted upright, eyes wide, chest heaving like he had just woken from a nightmare. For a second, he looked disoriented, like he didn't even know where he was. Then he caught sight of me watching and quickly composed himself. "Sorry," he muttered. "Just a bad dream." But the way he said it, the raw edge in his voice, told me it was more than that. I wanted to press, to ask what he had seen, but the words caught in my throat. Something told me that whatever haunted him, it wasn't something he shared easily. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that Rayyan wasn't just another roommate. He carried secrets, heavy ones, and they were pressing down on him even here, in the safety of a dorm room. And though I didn't know why, part of me desperately wanted to be the one he shared them with. That night, As he drifted back into uneasy sleep, I lay awake, staring at the shadows on the ceiling. I didn't realize it then, but sharing a room with this stranger was about to pull me into a story far bigger than I ever imagined, and once it began, there would be no turning back. The days passed, and my life began to revolve around Rayyan in ways I didn't expect. At first, I thought it was just curiosity. He was different from anyone I'd met. Too guarded, too careful, as if he was constantly hiding a part of himself. But slowly, my curiosity turned into something else. A pull, a quiet ache every time I caught him looking at me, or worse, when he wouldn't. We fell into a strange rhythm. We weren't exactly friends, not yet, but there was an unspoken understanding between us. He never mocked my late-night gaming or the way I left coffee mugs scattered across the desk, and I, in turn, didn't ask too many questions about why he stayed out late some nights, or why he sometimes came back with a shadow in his eyes. Still, the silence between us wasn't uncomfortable. If anything, it felt charged, like every word left unsaid was building a bridge we didn't know how to cross. One evening, after a long day of classes, I walked into the room and found him sitting by the window. The fading sunlight poured over his face, highlighting the sharp lines of his jaw, the way his dark hair fell carelessly into his eyes. He looked so lost in thought that for a moment, I hesitated to disturb him. But then he spoke first. "Do you ever feel like you don't belong here?" His voice was quiet, almost hesitant. The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" He turned his head toward me, and his gaze was so intense it made my chest tighten. "Like no matter how hard you try, you'll never fit into the world around you." I swallowed hard. "Yeah, all the time." His lips curved into the faintest smile, but his eyes remained shadowed. I thought I was the only one. It was such a simple exchange, but something about it broke through the walls he had built around himself. From that night, our conversations grew longer, deeper. He asked about my family, my childhood, the dreams I never told anyone else. And though he was still reluctant to share much about himself, every so often he'd let something slip. A fragment of a memory, a hint of pain that went far beyond normal college stress. One night, I found him sitting on his bed, staring at a small object in his hand. It looked like a silver pendant, etched with symbols I didn't recognize. His thumb traced over it slowly, like it was both precious and painful. "What's that?" I asked softly. He startled, quickly tucking it back into his pocket. "Nothing, just something from home." The way he said home made my chest ache. There was longing in his tone, but also fear, as if even speaking about it might summon something dangerous. I didn't press him. Instead, I said, "Must be important to you." He looked at me for a long time, and in his eyes I saw a battle I couldn't name. Then he whispered, almost too softly to hear, "It's the only piece of my past I still have." Something shifted between us that night. It was like we were no longer just two strangers sharing a room. We were two people carrying secrets, finding comfort in each other's presence. And the more time we spent together, the harder it became to ignore the quiet storm building inside me. I noticed the little things. The way his shoulders relaxed only when I was around. The way he watched me when he thought I wasn't looking. The way his laughter sounded so rare and unpracticed, like a gift he didn't give to many people. One evening, it started raining hard outside. The sound of the storm filled the room, drowning out the world beyond our four walls. I was sitting on my bed, scrolling aimlessly on my phone, when the power suddenly went out. "Great," I muttered. Rayyan chuckled softly. "Guess it's just us now." The way he said it, "just us," made my heart skip a beat. In the dim light from the window, I could barely make out his features, but his eyes seemed to glow, steady and searching. We sat in silence for a while, listening to the rain, and then, out of nowhere, he asked, "Do you ever feel like telling someone a secret you know you shouldn't share?" I froze. "Depends on the secret." He leaned back against the wall, closing his eyes. "The kind that could change everything if they knew." Something in his voice sent shivers down my spine. I wanted to ask him what secret he was hiding, but I was afraid of the answer. Instead, I whispered, "Maybe that's when you need to share it the most." His eyes opened, locking onto mine. For a moment, The air between us felt electric, as if we were both standing on the edge of something we couldn't name. But then he looked away, breaking the spell. "Maybe someday," he said quietly. That night, as he drifted to sleep, I lay awake replaying his words in my head. A secret that could change everything. What could he possibly mean? I didn't know it then, but I was about to find out, because the very next night, everything would shift, and the stranger I thought was just my roommate would reveal a truth that would pull me into a world I never could have imagined. The night everything changed didn't announce itself with thunder or warning. It slipped in quietly, like a shadow crawling across the floor. It was late, past midnight. I had been half asleep, the faint hum of the rain outside lulling me into a dream when I heard it. The sound of movement, not just Rayyan shifting in his bed, something sharper, heavier, deliberate. I sat up, rubbing my eyes. "Rayyan!" He was already awake, standing by the window, his body tense. The moonlight caught the side of his face, and for the first time, I saw fear written there. Raw, unguarded fear. "They found me," he whispered. My pulse spiked. "What are you talking about? Who?" Before he could answer, a loud knock rattled our door. 3 sharp bangs that echoed through the room. My heart slammed against my ribs. Rayyan turned to me, eyes wide. "Stay behind me. Don't open that door." I wanted to argue, to demand answers, but something in his tone silenced me. He moved with purpose, pulling the silver pendant from his pocket. As he gripped it, the etchings along its surface glowed faintly, casting eerie patterns against the walls. The knocking turned into pounding. The door handle rattled violently. Rayyan muttered something under his breath, words I didn't understand. And then, impossibly, the air in the room shifted. It grew heavier, thicker, charged with an energy that didn't belong in this world. My mouth went dry. "Rayyan, what the hell is going on?" He turned to me, his voice trembling but steady. "I owe you the truth. I'm not just another student. I'm not even supposed to be here. I crossed over, from somewhere else. Another world." For a second I thought I misheard him. Another world? It sounded insane, like something out of the fantasy novels stacked under my bed. But looking at him, at the glowing pendant, at the fear in his eyes, it didn't feel like a joke. The pounding on the door grew louder. Cracks splintered through the wood. "I'm the son of a king," Rayyan continued quickly, his words spilling out like he didn't know how much time he had. "My uncle wants the throne, and he'll do anything to take it, including killing me. I escaped here because it was the only place left where I could hide." I stared at him, my chest tight, my mind spinning. A prince from another world? It was impossible. And yet, every strange thing about him suddenly clicked into place. His guarded behavior, his haunted eyes, his restless nights. The door finally burst open. A figure cloaked in dark fabric stormed in, their presence filling the room like a nightmare come to life. They carried a weapon that shimmered unnaturally, like liquid steel molded into a blade. Rayyan shoved me behind him. "Stay back!" The intruder lunged. In one fluid motion, Rayyan raised the pendant and it expanded into a glowing dagger in his hand. The clash of steel against magic filled the room, sparks flying as they fought. I stood frozen, heart racing, watching as the boy I thought was just my roommate moved with skill and desperation. He fought like someone who had been trained his whole life, every strike precise, every dodge fueled by survival. But he was tiring. The assassin was stronger, relentless. With one harsh strike, Rayyan's dagger was knocked from his hand, skidding across the floor, right to my feet. I looked down at it, then at him. He was cornered, defenseless. The assassin raised their weapon, ready to strike the final blow. Something inside me snapped. Without thinking, I grabbed the dagger. The moment my fingers wrapped around the hilt, a surge of energy shot through me. My vision blurred, my body hummed with strange power. It was overwhelming, but it felt right. "Throw it!" Rayyan shouted. Instead, I didn't throw it. I lunged forward, swinging wildly. The assassin turned, caught off guard, and in that split second Rayyan recovered, grabbing my wrist and guiding the strike. Together, we drove the blade into the intruder's chest. A blinding flash filled the room. When it faded, the assassin was gone, vanished like smoke in the wind. For a moment, all I could hear was my own ragged breathing, My knees nearly gave out, but Rayyan caught me, steadying me with his arms. "You shouldn't have," he started, but his voice cracked. He swallowed hard, his forehead pressing briefly against mine as though grounding himself. "You saved me." I shook my head, my body trembling. We saved each other. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was thick with everything we hadn't said, everything we were too afraid to admit. My heart hammered as I realized how close we were, how his breath brushed against my skin. His eyes met mine, and for the first time I saw something other than fear in them. Something softer, something that made my chest ache. "I can't stay hidden forever," he whispered. "They'll keep coming. But if you want me gone—" "I don't," I interrupted more quickly than I intended. My voice was shaky but certain. "I don't want you gone, Rayyan. Not now. Not ever." His lips parted slightly, his eyes searching mine. And then, slowly, he leaned in. Not rushed, not desperate, just real. The softest brush of his forehead against mine. A moment so fragile it felt like breathing too hard might shatter it. We didn't need to say the words. The silence between us said enough. That night, lying awake with the weight of his secret pressing on both of us, I realized something. My life wasn't ordinary anymore. It hadn't been since the moment Rayyan walked through that door. And though the danger was far from over, I knew one thing for certain. I didn't want a world without him in it. Because somewhere between the fear, the secrets, and the battles we weren't ready for, I'd found something worth holding on to, and maybe, just maybe, so had he. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves emotional, slow-burn romances. And tell me in the comments, would you have believed Rayyan if he was your roommate?